In the year 2347, Earth was no longer alone in the universe. Humanity had spread across the solar system, building colonies on Mars, mining asteroids for precious metals, and exploring the moons of Jupiter and Saturn. But despite these advances, Earth was still a young and relatively small player compared to the vast civilizations that existed beyond the stars. That changed one fateful morning when an enormous alien ship appeared in Earth's orbit. It was so massive that it blocked out the sun over half the planet, casting long shadows across cities and oceans. The ship belonged to the Xylari Dominion, a powerful galactic empire that ruled over countless worlds. Their leader, Emperor Vorthok, sent a chilling message to all of humanity. Through broadcasts on every screen, radio, and communication device, his deep, echoing voice demanded tribute. The Empire wanted Earth's rarest resources, precious metals, advanced technology, and even human labor, or they would destroy the planet without hesitation. The ultimatum gave Earth only 7 days to comply. Panic swept across the globe. People gathered in streets, watching the skies and wondering if this was the end of their species. Governments scrambled to respond, holding emergency meetings to decide what to do. Among those thrust into the spotlight was Jacob Hale, a calm and experienced diplomat who worked for the United Earth Council. Jacob had spent years negotiating treaties between Earth's nations and resolving conflicts peacefully. Now he faced his greatest challenge yet, dealing with an alien empire that saw humanity as nothing more than insects to be crushed or exploited. Jacob's wife, Claire, watched the news unfold from their modest home in Chicago. She held her breath as reporters speculated about whether Earth would surrender or fight back. Claire knew how much pressure Jacob was under, but she also knew he wouldn't give up easily. He believed in finding solutions, even in the darkest moments. Still, the fear gnawed at her. What if the aliens didn't care about diplomacy? What if they attacked anyway? Meanwhile, high above Earth, the alien dreadnought loomed like a mountain in space. Its surface shimmered with strange lights, and its sheer size made it clear just how outmatched humanity was. The Empire's emissary, Lord Kale, arrived shortly after the ultimatum. Tall and imposing, with skin that glowed faintly blue, he radiated authority and disdain. When Jacob met him aboard the alien ship, he felt small and insignificant. Lord Kale spoke curtly, dismissing Earth's pleas for more time or negotiation. "You are weak," Kale said coldly. "Compliance is your only option." But not everyone on Earth agreed. In a hidden base beneath the Nevada desert, a group of rebels began planning resistance. Led by Ethan Cole, a former military strategist with a fiery determination, they refused to bow to the Empire. Ethan believed humanity could stand its ground, even against such overwhelming odds. With the help of Mia Torres, a genius engineer, and Ryan Becker, a fearless pilot, they started working on ways to defend Earth. While Jacob tried to buy time through diplomacy, Ethan and his team prepared for war. As the days ticked by, tensions grew. The Empire's deadline loomed closer, and the question remained unanswered. Would Earth submit to the Empire's demands, or would it risk everything to fight back? For now, humanity stood divided, unsure of its next move. But one thing was certain: the decision they made would shape the future of their species forever. While the United Earth Council debated whether to surrender or resist, a different kind of movement was taking shape far from the polished conference rooms and bustling cities. In the deserts of Nevada, beneath the cracked earth and endless skies, Ethan Cole stood in a dimly lit underground bunker surrounded by a small but determined group of rebels. They called themselves the Resistance Initiative, though for now, they were little more than a ragtag assembly of soldiers, engineers, and idealists. But what they lacked in numbers, they made up for in determination. Ethan was a man who had seen war before. A former military strategist, he had fought in Earth's early space conflicts when humanity first ventured beyond its atmosphere. Those battles had taught him two things: never underestimate your enemy, and never give up without a fight. Now, as he stared at maps and schematics pinned to the walls of the bunker, He knew this would be humanity's greatest challenge yet. The Tylari Dominion wasn't just another faction. It was an empire that spanned galaxies, with technology far beyond anything Earth possessed. But Ethan refused to believe surrender was the only option. Among his closest allies was Mia Torres, a young engineer whose quiet demeanor hid a brilliant mind. Mia had grown up tinkering with machines in her father's garage, and by the age of 25, she had already designed propulsion systems for Earth's fastest spacecraft. When Ethan approached her about joining the resistance, she didn't hesitate. "If we don't fight," she said simply, "they'll take everything." Together, they began analyzing data from past encounters with alien ships, looking for weaknesses. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Then there was Ryan Becker, a hot-headed pilot known for his reckless bravery. Ryan had always been drawn to danger, flying missions no one else dared to attempt. His fiery temper often got him into trouble, but Ethan valued his skill in combat. Ryan trained tirelessly in simulators, preparing for the day when he might face the Empire's ships head-on. "We can't let them push us around," Ryan muttered during one training session. "Earth isn't theirs to take." As the Resistance worked on their plans, Lord Kale, the Empire's emissary, arrived on Earth to oversee compliance with Emperor Vorthok's demands. His presence only fueled humanity's anger. Kale was arrogant and dismissive, treating Earth's leaders like children pleading for mercy. At a tense meeting with Jacob Hale, he sneered, "Your species is primitive. Resistance will only bring destruction." Jacob tried to reason with him, appealing to logic and diplomacy, but Kale showed no interest in negotiation. To him, Earth was nothing more than a resource to exploit. News of Kale's behavior spread quickly, igniting outrage across the globe. People who had once been unsure about fighting back now rallied behind the resistance. Protesters filled the streets, holding signs that read, "No surrender" and "Earth will fight." Claire Hale, Jacob's wife, joined some of these protests, carrying banners alongside neighbors and friends. Though she feared for Jacob's safety, she couldn't stay silent. "If we don't stand up now," she told a reporter, "we'll lose everything." Back in the bunker, Ethan and his team worked around the clock. Maya discovered something crucial while studying footage of the Empire's ships. Their advanced technology relied heavily on quantum cores. These cores powered everything from weapons to shields, but they were also fragile. A well-placed electromagnetic pulse, EMP, could disable them. Excited by the discovery, Mia proposed building EMP-equipped drones to strike at the Empire's fleet. It was a risky plan, requiring precise timing and coordination, but it was the best chance they had. Ethan shared the idea with his team, and though some doubted its feasibility, Ryan stepped forward immediately. "I'll fly the drones myself," he said. "Just tell me when and where." Ethan nodded, grateful for Ryan's courage. He knew the odds were against them, but giving up wasn't an option. Humanity had faced challenges before, and each time, it had found a way to survive. As the Empire's deadline drew closer, the Resistance prepared for battle. Above them, the alien dreadnought loomed ominously in the sky, a reminder of the threat they faced. But deep underground, hope burned brightly. For every person who believed surrender was inevitable, there was another ready to fight. And in that defiance lay the spark of humanity's survival. Jacob Hale stood in the shadow of the alien dreadnought, his heart heavy, but his resolve firm. He had spent days negotiating with Lord Kale, trying to buy time for Earth, but every attempt had failed. Kale was unyielding, his cold gaze making it clear that the Empire saw humanity as nothing more than insects to be crushed underfoot. Jacob returned to Earth knowing that diplomacy alone wouldn't save them. The clock was ticking, and the Resistance's plan might be humanity's only hope. Back in Nevada, Ethan Cole and his team worked tirelessly in their underground bunker. Maya Torres had already begun retrofitting old orbital defense platforms into weapons capable of repelling the invaders. These platforms were relics from Earth's early space wars, designed to protect satellites from debris and small asteroids. Now, Maya reprogrammed them to fire concentrated bursts of electromagnetic energy. If her calculations were correct, these EMP blasts could disable the Empire's ships by targeting their quantum cores, the fragile components that powered their advanced technology. Ryan Becker trained pilots day and night, pushing them to their limits. The Empire's ships were faster and more agile than anything Earth had, but Ryan believed human ingenuity and courage could make up for the difference. "We're not fighting fair," he told his team. "We're fighting smart." He drilled them on evasive maneuvers and coordinated attacks, knowing they would need every advantage in battle. Despite the long hours and grueling exercises, morale remained high. Each pilot understood what was at stake: the survival of their species. Meanwhile, Claire Hale did her part to support the resistance. Though she wasn't a soldier or an engineer, she knew how important it was to keep spirits alive. She organized community efforts to gather supplies for the fighters: food, medical kits, spare parts, and helped spread messages of hope through social media. Her voice became a beacon for many who felt overwhelmed by fear. "We've faced challenges before," she wrote in one post, "and we've always found a way to overcome them." As the resistance prepared, tensions within the United Earth Council reached a boiling point. Some members argued that surrender was the only way to avoid total destruction. Others insisted on fighting, no matter the cost. Jacob found himself caught in the middle, torn between his role as a diplomat and his growing belief in the resistance's cause. Finally, after a heated debate, he made a bold decision. He shared classified information about the Empire's fleet movements with Ethan, knowing it could mean the difference between victory and defeat. Maya used this intel to refine their strategy. She realized the Empire's ships operated in clusters, relying on centralized command hubs to coordinate their actions. By targeting these hubs with EMP drones, they could disrupt entire squadrons at once. The plan was risky. It required precise timing and coordination, but it offered a glimmer of hope. Ethan approved it immediately, assigning Ryan and his pilots the critical task of deploying the drones during the heat of battle. Above Earth, the Empire grew impatient. Without warning, 3 scout vessels descended from the dreadnought, likely sent to assess Earth's defenses. Ethan saw this as both a threat and an opportunity. "This is our chance to test the EMPs," he said. Ryan volunteered to lead the mission, taking a squadron of pilots to intercept the scouts near the moon. As they launched into space, Claire watched anxiously from mission control, praying for their safe return. The battle was chaotic and intense. The alien ships moved with terrifying speed, firing beams of energy that tore through Earth's outdated fighters. But Ryan managed to lure one scout into range of an experimental EMP cannon hidden on the lunar surface. With a single blast, the cannon disabled the scout, sending it spiraling out of control. The other 2 scouts retreated, leaving behind a damaged vessel for humanity to study. Back on Earth, the victory sparked celebrations, but Ethan remained focused. Capturing the scout provided valuable insights into the Empire's technology, but it also signaled to the Xylari Dominion that Earth would not go down without a fight. The resistance had proven it could strike back, but the real battle was still to come. The capture of the alien scout ship marked a turning point for humanity. For the first time, Earth had something tangible to study, a piece of the Empire's advanced technology. Maya Torres wasted no time dissecting the damaged vessel in her makeshift lab deep within the Nevada bunker. Her hands moved quickly but carefully as she examined its sleek, metallic surface. The ship was unlike anything humans had ever seen, with circuits that glowed faintly and materials that seemed to shift under the light. Despite its alien design, Mia noticed patterns, logical systems she could decode if given enough time. Ryan Becker returned from the mission exhausted but triumphant. His squadron had suffered losses, and the faces of fallen comrades weighed heavily on him. Still, he knew their sacrifice hadn't been in vain. "We showed them we can hit back," he told Ethan during a debriefing. Ethan nodded, his expression grim but resolute. The victory was small, but it proved Earth wasn't defenseless. It also gave humanity a fighting chance against an enemy that had once seemed invincible. Meanwhile, Jacob Hale faced mounting pressure from the United Earth Council. Some members accused him of withholding critical information by sharing classified data with the Resistance. Others demanded immediate surrender, arguing that further defiance would only bring destruction. But Jacob refused to back down. He stood before the council, his voice steady despite the tension in the room. "If we give up now, we lose everything," he said. "Our freedom, our dignity, our future. Is that what we want to leave for the next generation?" His words resonated with many, especially after news of the successful EMP strike spread. People around the world watched footage of the disabled scout ship being towed into orbit, proof that humanity could fight back. Claire Hale worked tirelessly to amplify this message, organizing broadcasts that showcased unity and resilience. She interviewed pilots, engineers, and ordinary citizens who had joined the resistance effort. Each story added fuel to the growing fire of determination. Billions began to see themselves not as victims, but as survivors ready to defend their home. Ethan used the momentum to push forward with preparations. With Maya's help, he devised a bold plan. A coordinated assault using EMP drones to disable key sections of the Empire's fleet. They identified 3 command hubs orbiting Earth, each controlling dozens of ships. Destroying these hubs would cripple the Empire's ability to coordinate attacks. The challenge was getting close enough to deploy the drones without being detected. Ryan volunteered to lead the mission, knowing it would be dangerous. "If anyone can pull this off, it's us," he said confidently. To ensure success, Ethan enlisted additional support from underground networks across the globe. These groups smuggled supplies, built decoy satellites to confuse the enemy, and even hacked into the Empire's communication channels to gather intelligence. Every contribution mattered, no matter how small. Humanity was coming together in ways no one had thought possible. As the Empire prepared for its final assault, Lord Kale grew increasingly frustrated. He hadn't expected Earth to resist so fiercely. When reports came in about the captured scout ship, his icy composure cracked. "This planet is more trouble than it's worth," he muttered to his subordinates. Yet Emperor Vorthok's orders were clear. Earth must submit or face annihilation. Kale vowed to crush the rebellion once and for all. On the eve of the planned attack, Jacob addressed the council one last time. His speech was simple but powerful. "We are not alone in this fight," he said. "Every person on this planet has a role to play. Whether you're building weapons, caring for the wounded, or simply holding your family close, you're part of something greater than yourself. Together, we will show the galaxy that humanity cannot be broken." His words reached millions through live broadcasts, igniting a sense of purpose that transcended borders and languages. In living rooms, factories, and shelters, people listened and found strength in his message. Even those who had doubted the resistance now believed victory was possible. In the bunker, Ethan gathered his team for a final briefing. Maya reviewed the plan one last time, pointing out potential risks and contingencies. Ryan reassured his pilots, reminding them why they were fighting. Outside, the sky darkened as the alien dreadnought loomed overhead, a constant reminder of the battle ahead. But beneath the surface, hope burned brighter than ever. Humanity had made its choice, to stand and fight, no matter the odds. The Empire's patience had run out. Without warning, the massive dreadnought above Earth unleashed its full might. Hundreds of sleek, angular ships descended from its belly, filling the skies with an ominous hum. The invasion had begun. Humanity's defenses, though hastily prepared, sprang into action. Orbital defense platforms fired bursts of energy at the incoming fleet, while ground-based missile silos launched salvos toward the alien ships. But the Empire's vessels were faster and more advanced, weaving through the attacks with ease. Ethan Cole watched the battle unfold from mission control, his jaw clenched as he monitored the chaos. The Resistance's EMP drones were ready, but deploying them required perfect timing. If they acted too soon, the drones would be destroyed before reaching their targets. Too late, and the Empire's forces would overwhelm Earth's defenses. "Hold steady," Ethan said over the comms, his voice calm but firm. He trusted Ryan Becker and his pilots to execute the plan flawlessly. Ryan led his squadron into the fray, dodging enemy fire as they raced toward one of the command hubs orbiting Earth. The alien ships pursued them relentlessly, their weapons cutting through space like streaks of lightning. Ryan's heart pounded as he maneuvered his fighter through narrow gaps between debris and explosions. "Stay close," he shouted to his team. Every second counted. Meanwhile, Mia Torres worked frantically to guide the pilots. From her station in the bunker, she analyzed real-time data, pinpointing the exact location of the command hub. "You're almost there," she said into her headset. Her hands trembled slightly, but her focus never wavered. She knew the success of the mission depended on her calculations. As Ryan's squadron approached the target, Claire Hale listened anxiously from mission control. She wasn't a soldier, but she felt the weight of the moment just as heavily as anyone else. Her eyes darted between screens showing the battle and updates from Mia. "Come on," she whispered under her breath, gripping the edge of her chair. Finally, Ryan gave the signal. "Deploying drones," he called out. Small, unmanned vehicles shot out from the fighters, each carrying a powerful EMP charge. The drones zipped through space, homing in on the command hub. Enemy ships tried to intercept them, but Ryan's squadron provided cover, drawing fire and sacrificing their own safety to protect the mission. Back in the bunker, Ethan held his breath as the drones reached their destination. With a burst of energy, the EMPs detonated, enveloping the command hub in a blinding flash. For a moment, everything went silent. Then, one by one, the lights on the hub flickered and died. The ships connected to it froze in place, their systems disabled. Cheers erupted in mission control as Ethan slammed his fist onto the table. "We did it," he shouted. But the victory was short-lived. The remaining alien ships regrouped quickly, focusing their attacks on Earth's weakened defenses. Explosions rocked cities and military bases as the Empire retaliated with brutal force. Ryan's squadron took heavy losses, their numbers dwindling rapidly. Still, they fought on, determined to hold the line. Jacob Hale watched the devastation unfold from the council chambers, his face pale with worry. He knew this was only the beginning. The resistance had struck a blow, but the Empire wouldn't retreat so easily. Humanity's defiance had bought them time, but the cost was already staggering. In the midst of the chaos, Claire stepped outside the bunker to look up at the sky. The stars were barely visible through the smoke and flames, but she stared at them anyway. "We're still here," she murmured to herself. Despite the destruction, despite the fear, humanity refused to give up. And for now, that was enough. The EMP strike against the command hub had been a success, but the Empire wasn't about to retreat. The disabled ships floated lifelessly in orbit, their systems fried by the pulse, but hundreds more remained operational. Lord Kale seethed with anger as he watched the battle unfold from his flagship. Humanity's resistance had caught him off guard, and he couldn't afford another mistake. "Focus all firepower on their defenses," he ordered coldly. "Eliminate them completely." Back on Earth, Mia Torres worked tirelessly to analyze the data collected from the captured scout ship. Her eyes scanned lines of alien code on her computer screen, searching for patterns or vulnerabilities. She discovered something crucial. The Empire's fleet relied heavily on centralized hubs, not just for coordination, but also for power distribution. If they could disable more hubs, they might cripple the entire armada. But targeting these hubs wouldn't be easy. They were heavily guarded and positioned deep within enemy formations. Ethan Cole gathered his team in the bunker to discuss the next phase of the plan. "We've proven we can hit them where it hurts," he said, pacing back and forth. "But one hub isn't enough. We need to take out at least 2 more if we want a real chance at stopping them." Ryan Becker nodded grimly, his face still smeared with soot from the earlier battle. His squadron had taken heavy losses, and the thought of sending pilots back into combat weighed heavily on him. Still, he didn't hesitate. "Tell me what you need," he said firmly. Mia explained her findings, pointing out the locations of the remaining hubs on a holographic map. One was near the moon, while the other orbited closer to Earth. Both were surrounded by swarms of enemy fighters. "We'll never get close without drawing their attention," she admitted. "But maybe that's exactly what we want." Her idea was risky. Use decoy drones to create diversions, allowing Ryan's squadron to slip past the outer defenses undetected. Jacob Hale, meanwhile, continued to rally global support for the resistance. He addressed world leaders through secure video conferences, urging them to send whatever resources they could spare: weapons, fuel, even volunteers. "Every contribution matters," he told them. "This isn't just about Earth anymore. It's about showing the galaxy that humanity won't bow to tyranny." His words inspired many, and shipments of supplies began arriving at hidden bases around the globe. Claire Hale did her part by organizing civilian efforts. She helped set up shelters for families displaced by the Empire's attacks and coordinated food drives to feed the growing number of refugees. Late at night, she often sat alone, staring at photos of Jacob and wondering if he'd make it through this war unscathed. Fear gnawed at her, but she refused to let it consume her. Instead, she channeled her energy into helping others, finding strength in their resilience. As preparations continued, Ethan shared intel with Ryan about the Empire's communication signals. They had intercepted transmissions revealing that Emperor Vorthok viewed Earth as insignificant, but feared setting a precedent of rebellion among other conquered worlds. This insight gave Ethan hope. "They're scared of us," he told his team. "If we keep hitting them hard, they'll realize we're not worth the trouble." The final piece of the puzzle fell into place when Mia uncovered a weakness in the Empire's shields. The quantum cores powering their ships emitted a faint resonance frequency, a flaw that could be exploited using modified EMPs. With this knowledge, Ethan finalized the plan. Ryan's squadron would deploy upgraded drones equipped with resonating pulses designed to penetrate the shields and disable the remaining hubs. On the eve of the mission, Ethan called everyone together for a briefing. "This is it," he said, looking each person in the eye. "We've trained for this moment. We've prepared for this moment. And now, it's time to show the Empire what humanity is made of." His voice carried a quiet determination that silenced the room. Outside, explosions lit up the horizon as the Empire pressed its assault. Time was running out, but no one flinched. Ryan stood beside Ethan, gripping the edge of the table. "Let's finish this," he said. The weight of the mission hung over them all, but beneath it burned an unshakable resolve. Humanity had struck back once. Now they were ready to do it again. Whatever came next, they would face it together. The day of the final assault arrived, and tension hung thick in the air. Ethan Cole stood in the bunker, watching as his team made last-minute adjustments to the EMP drones. Each drone was loaded with a modified pulse designed to penetrate the Empire's shields, thanks to Mayatori's discovery of the quantum core's resonance frequency. The plan was risky, but it was their best shot at disabling the remaining command hubs. Ryan Becker paced nearby, checking his fighter systems one final time. His squadron was smaller now, reduced by losses from previous battles, but every pilot who remained was ready to give everything for Earth. Mia worked feverishly at her station, double-checking the coordinates for the two remaining hubs. Her fingers flew across the keyboard as she uploaded the latest intel to Ryan's flight computer. "You'll have less than 30 seconds once you're inside their perimeter," she reminded him. "Make it count." Ryan nodded, his expression grim but focused. He knew the odds were against them, but he also knew they had no choice. If they failed, Earth would fall. Jacob Hale watched the preparations from a distance, feeling a mix of pride and dread. He had spent weeks trying to negotiate peace, but diplomacy had failed. Now, humanity's fate rested on the shoulders of these brave men and women. Claire joined him briefly, handing him a cup of coffee. "They'll do it," she said softly, though her voice trembled slightly. Jacob didn't respond, but he squeezed her hand tightly, drawing strength from her unwavering belief. As night fell, Ryan led his squadron into space. The alien fleet loomed ahead, its ships glowing ominously against the dark backdrop of the cosmos. Decoy drones launched first, creating chaos among the enemy ranks. Swarms of alien fighters scrambled to intercept the false targets, leaving gaps in their defenses. Ryan seized the moment, guiding his team through the openings. "Stay sharp," he warned over the comms. "We're not out of this yet." Ethan monitored the mission from the bunker, his eyes glued to the screens displaying live footage from the battle. Explosions lit up the void as Ryan's squadron dodged enemy fire, inching closer to the first hub. Maya relayed constant updates, her voice steady despite the tension. "You're almost there," she said. 10 seconds. 5. Now. Ryan signaled the release of the EMP drones, which streaked toward the hub like shooting stars. A blinding flash erupted as the pulse detonated, disabling the hub and dozens of nearby ships. Cheers erupted in the bunker, but Ethan silenced them quickly. "Focus," he barked. "We've got one more." The second hub proved harder to reach. Enemy reinforcements poured in, forcing Ryan's squadron into a desperate dogfight. Pilots shouted warnings and coordinates over the comms, their voices strained with effort. One by one, ships from both sides were destroyed, littering space with debris. Ryan gritted his teeth as he maneuvered his fighter through the chaos, refusing to let fear take hold. "Hold the line," he yelled. "We're almost there." Finally, they reached the second hub. Ryan deployed the last of the EMP drones, holding his breath as they closed in. Another pulse detonated, and the hub went dark. For a moment, silence reigned. Then, slowly, the Empire's ships began drifting aimlessly, their systems crippled. In the bunker, Ethan exhaled sharply, collapsing into a chair. "We did it," he muttered, his voice barely above a whisper. But the victory was bittersweet. Many lives had been lost, and Earth's cities still burned under the Empire's bombardment. Outside, Claire stepped into the cool night air, tears streaming down her face as she looked up at the sky. The Resistance had struck a blow, but the war was far from over. Lord Kale, aboard his flagship, stared at the carnage in disbelief. Humanity had proven itself more dangerous than he'd anticipated. Emperor Vorthok wouldn't tolerate such defiance, but Kale couldn't deny the truth. Earth wasn't going to surrender quietly. As the Empire regrouped, humanity braced for what came next. They had fought back, and they weren't done yet. The Empire's fleet was in disarray, but it wasn't defeated. Even as the second command hub went dark, Lord Kale issued orders to regroup and retaliate. The loss of the hubs had disrupted their coordination, but the dreadnought remained intact, and it was still a weapon capable of unimaginable destruction. Kale knew Earth's resistance had struck a blow, but he refused to let them gain any more ground. "Target their cities," he commanded coldly. "Show them what happens when they defy us." Back on Earth, Ethan Cole and his team watched as the alien bombardment intensified. Cities erupted in flames, their skylines reduced to rubble. The air was thick with smoke, and the cries of survivors echoed through the streets. Hospitals overflowed with the injured, and shelters struggled to accommodate the growing number of refugees. Despite the devastation, Ethan refused to give up. "We've hurt them," he told his team. "Now we finish them." Mia Torres worked around the clock, analyzing data from the captured scout ship and the EMP strikes. She discovered something critical. The dreadnought's power core was located deep within its center, protected by layers of shielding. But if they could get close enough, a massive EMP pulse might disable it entirely. The problem was delivery. Getting a weapon that powerful into the heart of the enemy flagship seemed impossible. Mia proposed using a stolen alien scout ship to infiltrate the dreadnought, disguising it as part of the Empire's fleet. It was a long shot, but it was the only plan they had. Jacob Hale volunteered for the mission. As a diplomat, he wasn't trained for combat, but he understood the stakes better than anyone. If Earth surrendered now, all hope would be lost. Claire begged him not to go, her voice trembling with fear. "You can't leave me," she whispered, clutching his hand tightly. Jacob held her close, his own heart heavy with uncertainty. "I have to do this," he said softly. "For you, for everyone." Ryan Becker prepared his squadron to provide cover for Jacob's mission. They would distract the Empire's remaining ships, drawing their fire while Jacob slipped past their defenses. "We'll hold them off as long as we can," Ryan promised. His pilots nodded grimly, knowing the odds were against them. Many wouldn't return, but none hesitated. This was humanity's last stand. As dawn broke, Ryan led his fighters into battle once more. The alien ships responded immediately, launching waves of attacks. Explosions lit up the sky as missiles streaked through space. Ryan's voice crackled over the comms, shouting commands and encouragement. "Stay alive," he yelled. "Keep them busy." Meanwhile, Jacob climbed aboard the stolen scout ship, his hand steady despite the weight of the mission. He activated the cloaking device Mia had installed, blending the ship seamlessly into the Empire's fleet. Inside the dreadnought, alarms blared as Jacob approached, but the disguise held. Slowly, carefully, he navigated the narrow corridors, guided by Mia's instructions. "You're almost there," she said over the comms. Her voice was calm, but Jacob could hear the tension beneath her words. Finally, he reached the power core. The room hummed with energy, pulsating lights casting eerie shadows on the walls. Jacob set the EMP device, programming it to detonate in minutes. As he turned to leave, alarms screamed louder. Guards appeared at the entrance, weapons drawn. Jacob froze, realizing he wouldn't make it out in time. Outside, Ryan's squadron fought desperately to buy every second they could. Explosions rocked space as enemy ships closed in. Back in the bunker, Claire stared at the screens, praying silently for Jacob's safe return. Then, the EMP detonated. A blinding flash engulfed the dreadnought, sending shockwaves through the fleet. Ships faltered, their systems disabled. For a moment, silence reigned. Humanity had struck its greatest blow yet, but at what cost? The EMP pulse detonated with a blinding flash, rippling through the dreadnought and disabling its core. The massive ship shuddered violently, its once imposing presence now reduced to a lifeless hulk drifting in space. Smaller ships in the Empire's fleet followed suit, their systems crippled by the shockwave. For a moment, everything seemed frozen. Earth's defenders held their breath as they watched the alien forces falter. Inside the dreadnought, Jacob Hale braced himself against the wall as lights flickered and alarms died down. He had set the EMP device just moments before guards arrived, knowing there was no way out. But as the pulse surged through the ship, even the guards collapsed, their suits' systems failing under the electromagnetic surge. Jacob seized the opportunity, grabbing one of their weapons and making his way back toward the hangar where the stolen scout ship awaited. Every step felt like an eternity, his body battered and his mind racing. He didn't know if Earth's forces were still holding on or if Ryan's squadron had been wiped out. All he could do was keep moving. Outside, Ryan Becker and his pilots fought valiantly to hold off the remaining enemy ships. Explosions lit up the void as missiles streaked past their fighters. "Hold together," Ryan shouted over the comms, his voice trained but determined. One by one, his squadron took hits, their numbers dwindling rapidly. Still, they refused to retreat, buying precious time for Jacob's mission. When the EMP pulse struck, the enemy ships around them went dark, their movements halting mid-battle. Ryan let out a shaky laugh, relief washing over him. "We did it," he whispered, though he knew the cost had been high. Back on Earth, Claire Hale stared at the screens in mission control, her hands clasped tightly. The dreadnought's collapse sent cheers erupting through the bunker, but she remained silent, her eyes searching for any sign of Jacob. Ethan Cole placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "He's coming back," Ethan said firmly, though doubt lingered in his own mind. They all waited anxiously, watching as the stolen scout ship emerged from the dreadnought's shadow and began its descent toward Earth. Lord Kale barely escaped the chaos aboard an escape pod, his face twisted with fury. He had underestimated humanity, and now his failure would reach Emperor Vorthok. As his pod drifted away from the wreckage, Kale vowed revenge. But for now, retreat was the only option. The surviving ships of the Tylari Dominion regrouped and fled Earth's orbit, leaving behind a trail of disabled vessels. When the scout ship touched down in Nevada, Claire rushed to meet it, tears streaming down her face. The hatch opened slowly, and Jacob stumbled out, exhausted but alive. Claire threw herself into his arms, sobbing uncontrollably. "You came back," she choked out. Jacob hugged her tightly, his own emotions overwhelming him. "I promised I would," he murmured. In the days that followed, humanity began to pick up the pieces. Cities lay in ruins, and millions had lost their homes, or their lives. But amidst the destruction, hope burned brighter than ever. The resistance had proven that Earth could stand against even the most powerful enemies. Ethan, Mia, and Ryan became symbols of courage and ingenuity, celebrated across the globe. Jacob returned to diplomacy, working tirelessly to unite Earth's nations and prepare for whatever challenges lay ahead. Though the Empire had retreated, everyone knew this wasn't the end. The Tylari Dominion wouldn't forget humanity's defiance. But for now, Earth had won, a victory earned through sacrifice, determination, and unity. And as people rebuilt their world, they carried with them the knowledge that no matter how daunting the odds, humanity would always fight to protect its future. The remnants of the Tylari Dominion's fleet disappeared into the depths of space, leaving Earth battered but victorious. The alien dreadnought, once a symbol of unstoppable power, now floated as a lifeless wreck in orbit, a trophy of humanity's defiance. For the first time in weeks, the skies above Earth were clear, free from the ominous shadow of the Empire's ships. People stepped outside their shelters, gazing upward with a mixture of relief and disbelief. Against all odds, they had survived. Jacob Hale stood on a makeshift stage in front of thousands of people gathered in Chicago's Central Square. His voice carried over the crowd, calm but filled with emotion. "Today we proved something to ourselves, and to the galaxy," he said. "We are not weak. We are not insignificant. Humanity will not bow to anyone." Cheers erupted, echoing through the streets. Claire watched from the sidelines, her heart swelling with pride. Jacob had risked everything for this moment, and now he stood as a beacon of hope for billions. Ethan Cole disbanded the Resistance Initiative, knowing its purpose had been fulfilled for now. He returned to his quiet life in Nevada, though he couldn't shake the feeling that Earth's fight wasn't truly over. The Tylari Dominion would remember this humiliation, and they might return one day. But for now, Ethan focused on rebuilding. He worked with engineers like Maya Torres to strengthen Earth's defenses, ensuring humanity would never be caught unprepared again. Mia herself became a legend. Her ingenuity had turned the tide of the war, and she continued to push the boundaries of Earth's technology. She transformed the captured scout ship into a research lab, studying every piece of alien tech she could salvage. Her goal was simple: to make sure Earth stayed ahead of any future threats. When reporters asked about her role in the victory, she shrugged modestly. "I just did my part," she said. "We all did." Ryan Becker found it harder to adjust to peace. The losses weighed heavily on him. The faces of fallen comrades haunted his dreams. Still, he channeled his grief into action, becoming a mentor for new pilots. "We can't forget what we fought for," he told them during training sessions. "If they come back, we'll be ready." Despite the scars, Ryan's fiery determination inspired those around him. As cities began to rebuild, stories of heroism spread across the globe. From the engineers who built the EMP drones to the civilians who supported the resistance, everyone played a role in Earth's survival. The unity forged during the war remained strong, reminding humanity of its resilience. Governments collaborated more closely than ever before, pooling resources to create a planetary defense network. It was a fragile peace, but it was a start. Far beyond Earth's solar system, Emperor Vorthok received news of the defeat. His expression darkened as Lord Kale delivered his report, trembling under the weight of failure. "Earth will pay for this," Vorthok declared coldly. But whispers of rebellion stirred among the Empire's conquered worlds. Tales of humanity's defiance reached distant planets, igniting sparks of hope in oppressed civilizations. If Earth could stand against the Tylari Dominion, perhaps others could too. Back on Earth, Claire wrote letters to survivors, documenting their experiences for future generations. She wanted the world to remember, not just the battles, but the courage and unity that carried humanity through its darkest hour. One evening, as she sat with Jacob on their porch, she looked up at the stars. "Do you think they'll come back?" she asked softly. Jacob didn't answer immediately. Instead, he took her hand, his grip firm. "It doesn't matter," he said finally. "If they do, we'll be ready, because we've learned something important. We're stronger together than we ever thought possible." And so, life on Earth moved forward. The scars of war would take years to heal, but humanity had proven its spirit couldn't be broken. No matter what challenges lay ahead, they faced them as one. In the vastness of the universe, Earth was no longer alone, and it had shown the galaxy that even the smallest spark could ignite a fire that empires couldn't extinguish.